Pre-calc, how's it going? Week 5. We all handle this quarantine a little differently. I gave myself a little haircut. There wasn't that much up there, so it's not that big of a stretch to go ahead and shave it off. But we're all doing different things, and that's what I decided to do this week. It's been rainy here this weekend, so I'm just had my hood on, had my hat on, just kind of laying low. Hopefully you guys are finding ways to keep active and not get crazy in your house, but let's move on. Last week we talked about polar coordinates, and that was a different way to plot a point, right? We have x comma y as rectangular coordinates, or the Cartesian coordinate plane, but now we have this r theta, and it was just a bunch of concentric circles. Okay, this week, just like we have y equals mx plus b, we have equations that are in rectangular form. We also have polar equations that are in polar form, and we can graph all the points and make some pretty neat curves and make some pretty neat graphs with these. So that's the idea. We have 3 goals this week. Goal number 1 is I give you a polar equation. You make a table, you plot the points, you connect the points, connect the dots with it, okay? Goal number 2, I give you a polar equation. You translate it and you figure out what that is in rectangular form, just like you did with a point, but you have to do it with equations, and it's a lot tougher. I'm not going to give you a big video on how to do that. I think Mrs. Kennedy's notes were very thorough, and she did a really good job, and it's good practice for you. You can't always have people that are explaining stuff where you can hear them. You have to kind of take that leap yourself, okay? So you'll read the notes, you'll go through them, you'll try the practice problems, you'll see what you're missing. You can come to office hours always, you can email me, but we're going to try it a little differently. So polar to rectangular, and then backwards, rectangular to polar, and then actually sketching a graph, okay? You have your challenge problem of the week, and then you have an upload, or there's 3 questions, 1 for each of those goals I just told you, and you'll upload that and email it to me. So let's get started. Let's get after it, okay? I have just one example I'm going to show you of goal number 1, right? Here is an equation that's in polar form. Get that thing out of the way. R equals 1 minus 4 cosine theta. And just like back in, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade, you guys learned about making an XYT chart. Well, it's kind of the same thing, only it's an R theta T chart. And I didn't draw the T, so I guess it's not very similar. But making this little chart. So we're just going to fill this in. I know what theta is. Theta is 0. So I can plug a 0 in here. Cosine 0 is 1 times 4, 4. 1 minus 4, negative 3. So what I want you to do now is you can copy this down, and I want you to fill out this chart. You can use a calculator too. We're not looking for exact, especially if I'm going to plot these points. It's kind of tough to plot square root of 3 over 2. So we can do decimal approximations here on this one. So I'll do the next one. Make sure we're in degree mode. Better change that because all of these are in degrees over here. I'm going from 0 to 360 degrees. And I'm just going to do 1 minus 4 cosine 30. I get about negative 2.5. Okay? And I'll do one more. 1 minus 4 cosine 60. Negative 1. Okay? All we're going to do, hit pause. I want you to go from 0 to 360. And I want you to fill out this chart. Come back and we'll start plotting these points together. Okay, we're back. Hoping you hit pause. If not, don't sweat it. Through the magic of preparedness, I have already have the table all filled out. I plugged them in. I have my values. And now it's just about connecting these dots, plotting these points. And then as you go, it's kind of like a parametric curve in this sense that we're going to play connect the dots as we go. The first one to the second one to the third one with a smooth curve. These aren't jagged lines here. These are smooth curves because we're only going in these increments. You want to do straight lines, but it's not like that. I could have went in increments of 15. I could have went in increments of 2 degrees, and it ends up being a smooth curve. So let's plot some of these and start to get a feel for this. So it says to point at 0 degrees and go to negative 3. So 0 degrees would be this way. Negative 3 would be in the opposite direction 3. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next, I'm going to point in the 30-degree direction and go negative 2.5. Okay, so 30-degree direction would be this way, negative 1, 2.5. And now I'm going to start to play connect the dots. This was my first one. This is my second one, connecting with a smooth curve, an attempt at a smooth curve. If you want to go like 3 dots at a time, sometimes that's kind of helps you see where you're going, so what kind of angle, what kind of direction you should be drawing it, but you'll get a feel for it. And I'll put a little line through it so I know I graphed it. 60, negative 1. 60 is this direction. Negative 1 would be back. The 3 points kind of lets me know it's kind of rounding on itself here. Okay. Next, 90 and 1. 90 and 1. 3 and 120. So at 120. 3. 1, 2, 3. 150 and 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. You guys can keep doing this too, and I'll start to go a little faster here. 180 and 5. Ooh, that one was not very smooth, but you get the idea. 240 and 3. 270 and 1. 300 negative 1. 330 to negative 2.5. And 363. 360 this way, negative 3 back, so it just ends up on itself, which makes sense. It should be periodic. Okay, and it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but that's the idea. This is called a limaçon, actually. I always struggle with the pronunciation, so I looked it up and you guys can hear it. Ready?
Limaçon. Limaçon.
Make your French teachers proud. Limaçon. I did want to take a look at Mrs. Kennedy's notes. That's it for that, by the way. That's goal number 1. Hopefully you guys get an idea. You make a table, you sketch a table, you can put whatever values you want for theta, but with cosine and these trig functions being periodic, it makes sense to go one time around the circle. I went increments of 30, and then I just played connect the dots in order as we went. We made this thing called a limaçon. From there, you'll have some other ones to practice and upload, but that's what I'm looking for. Okay, on Miss Kennedy's notes now, I wanted to take a quick peek at them. I'm not going to go through all of them in detail. That's for you. But she has a really good little table here. Going back and forth between polar and rectangular, you're going to use the formulas we used last week to go from the coordinates, polar coordinates to rectangular coordinates and vice versa. But it's not that easy. These are pretty tough. These remind me of those trig identities, verifying trig identities, where you pick different paths and you try something and it might get you where you want to go or it might not. You have to kind of use all of your algebra skills to see how far you can get. But she has a good little table set up here of what you should be trying. Or if we're trying to get from r's and thetas to x's and y's, we have those bridges. These bridges right here, that r squared is x squared plus y squared. That takes me from one side to the other. R cosine theta and R sine theta, those are x and y. Those take us from one to the other. So we have to kind of be sneaky with our math and try some different things, that's these things, to get R squared and to get R sine thetas and R cosine thetas. So take a look at her notes. She does, again, a fantastic job doing this. We're going to treat this like a stamp. At the end of each of the notes, she has some problems for you to try out of the book, and then check your answers and see if you're doing them right. Bring any questions you have to me to office hours. Email me anytime you have a question, and I'll keep up with it as best I can. But that's it. So happy week 5. We're getting closer, you guys. There's only 8 weeks total in this marking period, and this is going to be week 5. So this crazy finish here at the end of marking period 4 and the end of your school year is approaching. So keep working, keep getting the help you need, and I'll see you guys on the flip.